Monday Star Wars CCG show. Hit the record button here. Thanks for stopping in. I know generally this is Chris Gogelin's time slot here on Mondays doing his game review, but as he is taking a much earned and a much needed break, I decided I would take this time and give you a little bit of a Star Wars CCG content. I'm gonna try to do a little bit of everything tonight, right? So I don't have a fancy intro. So you just get me and my pretty face. Alright, so let's jump right in here. Do a little around the horn. See what's going on in the world of Star Wars CCG in the last month. As you know, Texas Mini World's still going on. We're down to our final two. That is Matt Harrison Trainer, he of the 29 Force comeback in Game 2. And the other one is Greg Shaw, Mr. Second Place. We're trying to fix that right now. So they will play, looks like they're scheduled either the 6th, 7th, or 8th of October here. So probably about a week away now. What's cool is I've heard that commentary will be done by Dan, who I see in the chat. Will host Joe Olson, teammate of Matt Harrison Trainer, and Mike Kessling, teammate of Greg Shaw. So that should be a fun matchup to watch, and that should be some fun commentary. Two insightful guys, two fun guys to hang around with, and also Dan. Hold for applause. All right, what else we got going on here? Oh, also, don't miss it. I know Robbie's trying to join that stream as well. Robbie had some prizes to give away for Texas Mini World, some random participation prizes. I know Brian Fred offered to refund 2 people's entry fee, so he'll be giving those away. I think prior to the game starting. I don't know if that's the plan or what. We'll figure that out. But if you participated in Texas Mini Worlds at all, sounds like you're eligible. So if you played, if you volunteered streaming, if you helped with deck lists, I'm sure you're eligible. So make sure you tune in. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. Looks like the OCS Top 16. We had the draft, I believe that was last week. My days all run together now, I apologize. So we had the draft last week. We had Paul Myers with the number 1 pick, not taking Brian Fred. Everybody very sad. So we've got our 16 matchups here, or excuse me, 8 matchups here for the top 16. If you haven't done a prediction here on challenge, maybe it's French, I don't know. I'm going to pronounce a lot of things wrong tonight, I'm sure. So you're able to get your predictions in. That's in the OCS subforum. You can go to the top 16 thread. Should be the first link in Chris's post. I have not done my predictions yet, but there are a couple people that have. You can see here, I think we were up to 7 that have done their predictions already. So that's good. That'll be a good time. That's kicking off very soon. I think October 1st is the first date for that. And we have our first match scheduled for, I believe, the 2nd of October. Our 5 seed Drew Lichtenstein will be playing against our 12 seed Jared Napolitano. 2 players that definitely like to play early. So don't miss that. That's going to be Friday night, I believe around 10:30 Eastern time. And I'm sure that'll get uploaded to Twitch as well. Excuse me, uploaded to YouTube as well. So OCS into top 16. Something that could affect the rounds beyond the top 16. Great transition, Bill. Is the erratas that look like they're going to come into play here. Now these are not, I don't think these are final. Typically you get a day or two, a week or two to kind of get the final erratas, but Chris Kelly through the CBT, the competitive balance team on the CBT forum, posted a couple updates. It looks like erratas to R2D2, no longer going to use pile. Arctic Hui only gets to Tila Force during the light side player's turn. A couple no idea erratas, I'll get to those in a second. Moff Gideon will only deploy a Stormtrooper to his own site, so no more setting up barrack in space. Everybody's very sad. Walkling will not be eligible to start if you start the Masasi Throne Room. And then no idea, like I said, gets hit 4 or 5 times. So make sure you check those out on the forum. I posted my thoughts. I'm looking forward to playing a lot of Legend and not looking forward to playing against a lot of Legend. But then again, Set 13 is coming. I don't know the exact date for that, but it's on its way, so we won't have to deal with this meta for so long before it gets shaken up again. Another one was just announced today. If you missed it, Rob Hendon was given the honor of announcing it because, you know, he's been campaigning it for 6 years now, and that is Ability Virtual and Civil Disorder Virtual will be blanked. So if you do love to play against Senate, I got good news for you. I am pretty excited to play Dark Senate. Not that that was keeping me from playing Dark Senate anyway, but just another thing that will help it be more competitive. Alright. I closed out of my outline. Let me take a drink here. I do have a very large mug tonight. It's supposed to be in honor of Oktoberfest, you know, since we are Euro-themed tonight. So I have my liter mug with my beer that is way pinker than I thought it was going to be. Alright. So, after our Rada talk, what's next? We got Worlds 2020. Just under 2 months to go, or just over 2 months to go. That's going to be the first weekend of December, most likely. I don't have firm dates on that, but I would guess, looking at a calendar here, December 5th, 6th, 12th, 13th in play, something like that. Try to get that done before the holiday. Yeah, this is the, in case you didn't realize, it's the 25th World Championship. So I expect that number to feature prominently in prize support, maybe some giveaways. If they don't do it, I'll give something away to whoever finishes 25th, because that's fantastic. I did not think I would be here for the 25th World Championship. You know, having attended my first one in 2001, 19 years ago, I did not think I would still be here, but, you know, it's a fantastic community, so I'm still here. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some clarification on what Worlds is going to look like online, what to expect in the near future. All right, that's my little roundup around the world of Star Wars CCG today. So what I'm really here for is to talk about an event that is starting also October 1st, I believe, and that is the Corona Cup, which that is in lieu of the European Championship. Tomas and Chris Menzel and Kevin Yap put together this team tournament, which looks fantastic. And it's great that they're doing this online so that we can all participate, even if it is remotely. So in case you're not familiar with it, it is a 3-person team. There are 3 different formats going on in this event. So one is standard open format, same thing we've been playing for the last couple months. The erratas will be legal as they're legal on GEMP, is my understanding. The second format is the Jawa format, which is a format near and dear to my heart, which we will talk about in a little bit as well. And then the third format, very interesting format I think, is the so-called virtual reality format, where you are not allowed to use cards that are rare or premium. You are not allowed to play No Idea. You can play any virtual card you want. They're all legal. And you can only have 1 copy of each card in your deck. So another thing that we're going to talk about a little bit later is kind of what that meta might look like, what to expect with that, because it's something that we've never seen before. So it looks like there were 12 teams, I believe, that went up. So that's, 36 players involved in this event. They're going to play, I think, 3 rounds in a final. Maybe it's 4 rounds in a final. Definitely looks interesting to me. You can see I've got on the screen round 1 pairings, where we've got, there's a lot of, I can't even do this justice. You should check it out on the forum. Just the level of player in this tournament, the level of player in general is way up, but you just got a lot of the heavy hitters here, especially that Matt Harrison trainer team with him, Justin Branch, and Bastion. That's a formidable team. But Dylan, I don't know if you saw this on the forum or not. Dylan guaranteed 3-0. He does have Paul Myers, and he does have a Stefan on his team. So that's not a bad team either. So that'll be an entertaining one to watch. We got a couple American teams, which Tomas was nice enough to invite those of us who did not get picked up to be on a European team to form our own American teams, and they are playing in round 1. So you have Chris Goglin, who we've already talked about, taking a little break, but still playing cards. I know Anthony Howard, Batmouse, you got Ryan Jellison, you got David Woods, you got Kendall Hallman, you got Joker King, and then most of the teams have one American as well. Not all of them, but most of them do. So it'll be interesting to see them try to play on the European timelines, especially someone like Joe Olsen, who is on the West Coast and kind of far behind. So looking forward to that. That is our main story tonight, right? So let's talk a little bit about the background, right? So the European Championship, unfortunately, had to be canceled in person this year. And so Tomas was looking for a way to kind of so the European Championship, which I've never been to and hope to get to within the next year or two, sounds like one of the most fun events I've ever heard, because you play in a bar, first of all. Big fan. Some of my favorite events have happened in bars. So what they wanted to do was keep that fun element going, and that's why you have this different formats. You have the team aspects. I know when they have major events, they always do like a fantasy draft where they draft everybody onto a team. All about keeping it fun there, those European guys. And so one of the formats that they chose is the Jawa format, right? So the Jawa format, just a little history for everybody. This is something that, kind of like the MPC in its origins, this is a thing where, maybe I felt a little left out. So the MPC, for example, I had been playing about 5 or 6 years. Me and Greg Shaw were driving back from I don't know if it was Origins or Gen Con in like 2005, 2006. And I thought to myself, I have never played match play, because I had never made a final confrontation, I had never made a top 8, a top 12, anything like that. Whereas Greg, who finished second at Worlds twice in 2002, 2003, made other top 8s in that time, was playing it all the time. So I felt a little left out. Selfishly, I wanted to play some match play. And so that is how the Match Play Championship was born. And the Jawa format was kind of like that. So what had happened was Goblin had announced the Outrider Cup, where you had the top 6 players from Europe in the Player of the Year standings and the top 6 players in the U.S., kind of a riff of the Ryder Cup, obviously, going to play an event. And so I was not one of those top 6. I was not one of the top 16 in the OCS that year, or this year, or ever. So I thought, there's a lot of players like me that there's not really competitive Star Wars for them in November, December, January timeframe, right? So with the help of Kendall Hallman, Karan, and Eric Hunter, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, we created this Jawa format where basically we banned the top 5 cards played in Worlds that year. So I think the first year it was we banned Throne Room, we banned Legend, we banned Hitco, we banned No Idea, and I forget the 5th one, but we also banned Like My Father Before Me. We banned Black Sun, Court, I don't remember the other Dark Side ones, but we banned the top 5 from Worlds that year, from the previous year. And we just thought, let's go ahead and play it. Let's see what happens. And so I think we had 55 players in the first Jawa Cup. And that was fantastic. I had a blast running it, and we had a top 8. It was won by Jared Konsker. And that was Jawa. And I thought that was the end of it because, it was the Jawa Cup. It was a one-time event. And then people wanted to play Jawa more. I guess they were tired of playing against the same decks over and over and over and over again. It's not like that always happens or anything. So yeah, we had a Jawa format, and that continued to be a popular thing. And then we got to, I want to say May of this year, where we decided it needed to be updated. And we updated the format. Kendall created the Jawa Brawl, which was a fantastic time. I played in that. I made a top 8 in that. That was great. We banned, now, this time, it was Throne Room, it was EBO, it was No Idea, it was Legend, and it was Hitco. We did unban Like My Father Before Me, so if you want to play some kind of weird Endor, Chief Chirpa's Hut mains start, you can do it. I'm looking at you, Joel Olsen. For Dark Side, we banned Black Sun, we banned Court, we banned Huntdown, we banned Entanglements, and we preemptively banned ISB, thinking it would be one of the more popular options going forward, and boy, were we right. So that worked out pretty well. So, in our Jawa Brawl, I have on the screen kind of the decks that were played. So Watto, CCT, Invasion, a lot of Dark Deal. Map is in a great spot in the Jawa Cup. That was one of the ones banned originally. TTO is available. For light side, you have stuff like Yavin 4 Operations, you have Diplo, you have There's Good in Him if you want to play mains, you have Prophet, you have Watch Your Step, you have Senate, which just got a little better, by the way. So there's a lot of fun options still to play, and you're not going to face No Idea or ISB every game, though you may end up facing CCT every game. I did reach out, so actually, that's not true. Justin Branch reached out to me and asked if there were any updates that we would make to the Jawa format. I had mentioned that I think the most popular deck in the previous Jawa event should be banned, and so that's why for this Corona Cup list, you see that Diplo has been added to the list and Watto has been added to the list. I did mention that I think we should unban Court of the Vile Gangster and ban Scum and Villainy instead, but that was not chosen this time, but that may be a direction we look going forward. What do I got on my list here? Alright, so kind of checking out the meta a little bit for Jawa. I'm not going to go into it too much because it's kind of a known quantity at this point, right? You're going to play CCT, and you're going to play against a lot of CCT. I think that's one of the 2 or 3 most powerful decks in Open, so to have that legal in Jawa, I think you will see a lot of it. I think Map is in a fantastic spot. I think you can build Map kind of like it was last year when it had Strategic Reserves. That was the First Order version. I think if you want to get a little crazy, you could run 4 or 5 Stormtrooper Patrols, you can run 2 or 3 Blaster Rifle Virtuals, you can run Strategic Reserves non-V, and you can build that deck just like you did last year, and that'll be a powerful option. I do like Dark Deal. I think Dark Deal is in a great spot in the Jawa format because you don't have to deal with as much mains that's coming at you like a Hitco or a Throne Room or a Legend. You're able to set up kind of safely your occupation, your drains at whatever Cloud City site you choose, things like that. Those would be my top 3, I think, for Dark Side. For Light Side, Diplo is banned, but Yavin 4 Operations, definitely a good deck in general. You could set up with your X-Wings, basically. So you have Luke, you have Wedge, you have Poe, you have the Resistance pilot whose name escapes me, who cancels drains. Snap, that's his name, Snap Wexley. So you can definitely do a bunch of stuff there. Thank you, Eric. Snap. I think Old Allies is in a great spot there because you don't have as much dark side mains coming at you, right? You don't have the hunt down coming at you. You don't have court coming at you, taking over your system. You don't have ISB, making all your drains -1. So Old Ally's definitely a deck that's going to be good in the Jawa Cup. I'm actually surprised that in this Jawa Brawl stats page that I have here, thanks to Echo-based Trooper Adam Fletcher, that only 3.7% of people played Old Allies in the Jawa Brawl. That seems low to me. Your third option for Light, I think there is good in him. He is a great option. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go with QMC instead. I think QMC is a great option. We just had a Jawa event and I played QMC, and that deck is super annoying to play against because you never know what to grab against QMC. It could be worse? Is it we're doomed? Is it the lady interrupt? There's all kinds of abusive things you can do there, so definitely pack a second grabber in your dark deck. Going forward with the Jawa format, obviously with Worlds pushed back this year, Worlds being in December, that timeline is a little bit different than last year. And so we're kind of playing it by ear right now, what we're going to do. I believe it will be updated, and I have not spoken to Eric or Kendall about this at all, but I think we're going to go through and try to update after Worlds with the top 5 most played decks, and maybe the top 1, if it's still in there, most played deck in the Jawa portion of the Corona Cup. I think that would be a good list to start from, and we can discuss it from there. So stay tuned on that, see if there is a 2020 Jawa Cup, or if it gets pushed maybe to January, February timeframe. We'll do something. We'll figure something out. Alright, so Jawa. How do you guys feel about Jawa? What do you guys... Am I way off base there on meta? Am I on track, maybe? I have not played a lot of Jawa, honestly, since the Brawl, so I don't know. Eric just tuned in. Thanks for tuning in. What would you play if you were playing Jawa format right now? Eric said I'm right, because he doesn't know if I'm right or wrong, so that means I'm right. That's what I'm going to go with. You might be able to, if I can reload my closed tab. Alright, this was the Jawa Brawl from May of this year. I do like OA. I think OA is one of the best decks for light. I think I went with OA, QMC, and Yavin 4 Operations for light side. CCT, Dark Deal, and Map for dark side. We'll see just how wrong I am. I really hope somebody just... I mean, obviously in this tournament, somebody played Twin Suns, somebody played Combat, so I hope we see a lot of those decks and just get a lot of variety. I think that's kind of what the big thing they were going for, that Tomas and Kevin were going for by doing different formats, is getting a lot of variety, right? Because open format right now is not super variable. That sounds funny. There's a lot of ISB, there's a lot of CCT, there's a lot of No Idea, and a lot of Legend. Excuse me. Bit more sediment in this beer than I thought there was. Yes, I am wrong in fantasy football very often. So, taking away those top decks kind of forces you to play something that you haven't played in a while. Maybe it's Matt. Maybe it's Old Allies. We'll see. Okay. Alright, so that was the Jawa format. Feel free to keep talking about it in chat. I'll see if I see you answer or not. Yes, Adam, maybe it's WAP. Darn, Adam. Always playing WoW. Doesn't matter the format. You even got a great theme song now for it. Alright, so this one I'm pretty excited about. This is the other format for the Corona Cup. This is the virtual reality format. So I have the rules on screen here from Tomas. 1 copy of each card. So that was the first thing they started with. They started with a Highlander format. And I thought that was cool. And then it morphed into this virtual reality thing, which I think is way cooler. So 1 copy of each card. No rares or premium cards are allowed, except for objectives and defensive shields. That certainly makes things interesting, right? So you think about decks you might play in a Highlander. I think the first thing I thought was Imperial Entanglements, until you read Imperial Entanglements and realize that you have to start the Devastator, which you are not allowed to play. So you can start Imperial Entanglements and have it go right out of play. Fun times. Special edition fixed cards are allowed, so you can play your Intruder Missiles and your Diamond Sights. You cannot play Admiral Akbar or Admiral Piet, as they were in packs and rare in packs. All virtual cards are allowed, hence the name Virtual Reality, no matter what the rarity of the underlying card is. And finally, no idea is banned, because, you know, no idea. So I had asked kind of what they were looking for. I asked Tomas to kind of talk about it a little bit. And so how did he come up with this virtual reality format, right? So they just started thinking about weird formats. Him and Kevin Jap. I don't know. He wanted to push players outside of their comfort zone. I'm going to read his answers that he sent me, make them play a single copy of each card. Adds the randomness of the game. He does say that he used to think it was true that the European decks played way less duplicates, and, you know, us Americans and our 6 copies of Jedi Luke and 5 copies of They Must Never Again Leave This City. It's kind of what we do. He does think that the V cards are all really fun. That's kind of the core of the PC keeping this game going for 20 years, so that's why all of them are legal. Wants to see what a virtual heavy format looks like. Says he was surprised by the first reaction that No Idea is basically king of this format. I think my No Idea list lost like 4 cards, and it was nothing irreplaceable. So he says we hope we'll see some great new decks. He does say that this is a test run for a format he wants to do next year at the Europeans. So maybe you'll see a live version of this. What else has he got here? Oh, he does have a plug that if you have ever been to the venue for the European Championship, the bar in Germany, whose name I will not be able to say correctly, if you have supported them in the past, please consider doing so now. He does have an offer open to match $200 worth of donations that will go to them. I know that for the American players, if you don't want to spend the 5% that it's going to cost to send it in euros, Chris Gogolin is collecting donations, and we will send over a one-time donation. So definitely consider doing that. So yeah, I mean, we can look at the players that are playing this format, right? So schedule and rules here. So the way it worked out, it actually ended up being a lot of Americans playing this format. So just off the top of my head, I see Grady Hutchins, who I'm not sure if he counts as America or what is the country he's in now? It's not Ghana, because that's where Seth is. I can't think of the country, but the country in Africa. Matt Lutz playing, Brad Reinhold playing, Mike Kessling playing, Robbie Hendon playing, Ryan Jellison and Kendall are both playing, though they're on all-American teams. Matt Harrison Trainer, not American, but from the Americas originally. In addition to them, I know you have, I am going to mess up who these people are compared to their screen names, so I do not even want to try. I know you have Stefan DeVos playing it. You have Martin, who is probably Martin Denboff, but I'm not 100% on that. You have Ketwall, who I believe is Kieran. Again, not 100%, I'm sorry. You have Kuhn playing it. So, Definitely a lot of fun players playing this format, so I'm excited to see what they come up with. In the meantime, I will show you what I came up with today, looking at some of these decks, right? So the first thing I did was go through and kind of eliminate any decks that are unplayable because of the rules. So that's like Imperial Entanglements, right? Unplayable because of the rules, because you can't play Devastator. Huntdown, unplayable because of the rules, because you can't play the Meditation Chamber or Visage. So I did a first pass, what I came up with, and I will put these in chat so that you can all see them as I type here. These are the playable decks that I came up with on my first pass. There's my dark side list. Type up the light side list. One thing you will notice about these lists is that this is what I started with, and it's not what I ended with, because right away you could look at, yes, you can use objectives. Wait, I can't play Diplo, Dan? Why can't I play Diplo? And again, this was my first try, right? So looking at those, I know specifically that Dark Deal definitely has a lot of cards that you will not be able to play, such as Dark Deal, or They Must Never Again Leave the City, or The Executor, or, you know, any occupation. So, yeah, so all virtual versions of cards are legal, which means you can play Tantive 4 virtual, so you can play Diplo. However, you cannot play Strike Planning, so you definitely are building this deck a different way. So, like I said, this was my first pass, right? Some of those proved to be less than good once I realized what you were giving up in this format. So, take something like Court, right? So I knew I wouldn't be able to play Scum and Villainy, because that's a rare. What I didn't realize is that I would not be able to start Battle Order First Strike. I would not be able to use Jabba's Haven to pull Nal Hutta, because Nal Hutta's rare. I would only be able to use one copy of Twilight Advisor V, and I couldn't even play the Passenger deck, because that's rare. So things like that you don't think about. EOPS is on that list, and I thought, I think we could make a fantastic EOPS, right? But you can't play Ominous Rumors. You can still play Established Secret Base Virtual, which is good. And I thought, let's play Aerotech Corporation. We'll throw some Biker Scouts on some speeder bikes and just, go drain for 2 at a couple sites and drain for 2 in space, until you realize that half of the good Biker Scouts, actually all of the good Biker Scouts, are rare. And half of the pilots with the Endor icon that work with Aerotech are rare. So, definitely a challenge to build this. It's not something you can do off the top of your head. So I spent a couple hours today looking over some stuff. And I'm sure I still missed stuff. So when I show you these decks, I'm sure that you will sit here and tell me what I did wrong. What I found is that light side is way better. Not just at the top, but I think all the way down. Right? So first thing I looked at was Legend. The next thing I looked at was Old Allies. You look at Yavin 4 Operations. Diplo is still mostly playable. Mind What You Have Learned is still mostly playable. So it's definitely going to be a struggle for Dark Side. So let's start with the Dark Side decks that I did come up with, right? So I don't know if it's the second set or the first set. Okay. So, the first deck I came up with here, this is a ROPS deck, which I think actually is pretty good in this format, right? I don't know how well you can see this. If you can't see it, let me know. I will make these lists available if anybody wants them, wants to use them. I just ask for a small donation of $1 to the Taco Bill Fund. That's not true at all. You know what? Donate it to the Euro if you use one of these decks. Pick $1. Right? So with ROPS, I can look at this and I know that it is Highlander. So that's definitely a good start. With this one, I'm planning on starting Endor Shield. I'm planning on starting Insignificant Rebellion. And I'm planning on starting Quad Drive Yards, right? So one of the things I think that is important for this format is to get activation, and so that's why I'm going with quad drive yards, because that guarantees you a battleground site, a battleground system, and a 2-0 on turn 1. I'm also floating Imperial Arrest Order, which feels weird, but whatever. One of the things I realized quick about Endor Shield, take 2 admirals. There are 2 admirals that you can take. They are, where are they? Grand Admiral Thrawn Virtual, who's not really an admiral at all. Just an admiral in name only. And then Admiral Mahdi Virtual, who does kind of work with quad drive yards, so that worked out all right. From there, you can look at the space, right? So the space I had in my ROPS most of the time is Commander Desane pulling 2 shuttles, but since you can't play either shuttle or the Emperor, that doesn't seem like it's a very good plan, right? But because we're starting quad drive yards, you can throw some Star Destroyers in there, like the Stalker Virtual and the Vengeance Virtual. Both very good ships, both pullable by Death Squadron assignments. So that kind of shores up your space a little bit. Binder's just a good ship. You do have a problem here where Raltier is Parsec 3, Mustafar is Parsec 7, and your Star Destroyers are Hyperspeed 3. But luckily, according to GEMP, Captain Goddard is uncommon. He will add 1 to your Hyperspeed, and you also have merit in ship that you can use to move between the systems if you need to. Yeah, other than that, it's a pretty basic ROPS deck. One of the things I like about this is that light side, for example, can't run multiple copies of certain cards, right? So there's only one Rescue in the Clouds that you're going to see. So I think that opens up close call. And ROPS kind of gets around that one copy thing because of Insignificant Rebellion grabbing stuff from your lost pile. So I think this is a fun deck. There's a lot of good Imperials that are virtual that you can play. I like Dark Time. It's just a good card. I also found that I got to about 56 cards in each of these decks, and I was like, I don't know what else I can add because I don't know what else to play. But Dark Time is here for getting around evac control, and that doesn't work, does it, actually? Maybe you don't need Dark Time, but I like Dark Time. Feel free to change out for something else. Yeah, alright, there you go. See, I was smart for WAP and Old Allies. Good card. Great card. So yeah, I think this is a pretty basic ROPS deck, so not much going on here. Alright, so let's go to list number 2. So list number 2 is not on that list of objectives that I put out already. Yes, you can play weapons in this format. Virtual EPPs are legal, but say Darth Vader with lightsaber is not legal. Or Darth Maul with lightsaber is not legal. But Lord Maul with lightsaber is legal. Right, so second one. I didn't know what to do for dark side. So I started thinking about what light side was going to do. And what I came up with for light side is that they're going to play a lot of Old Allies, they're going to play a lot of Legend, because there's a lot of virtual cards in there, right? And so I thought about what might be good. And I originally wanted to play Court, because Court is good at taking over that system. Lana's more a move around card than it is a forfeit saving card, I think, in this format. You still have to deal with Rey with lightsaber, though, and Anakin's lightsaber. But yeah, I started thinking about taking over that system, both of them, Jakku, for each of those decks. And so I thought about Court. Court has a lot of ships that can take over a system, and I thought about the Dagobah Cave slip sliding away mains deck that has been kind of played off and on the past couple months. And now that's able to take over a system. Right? So, here is my second deck. And this is just a pile. I'm going to tell you right away. This is the Taco Bill pile. right? So take a court deck, take all the good aliens you can play and all the good space you can play, and then take an SSA mains deck and just kind of, there they go. This is what you get. So I think your space is pretty powerful, right? So you can use Vader and his tie, Virtual Vader and his virtual tie. You can use Virtual Boba Fett and Virtual Slave 1. You can use Virtual Boss, Virtual Houndstooth. I think that's a great base for your space. And then you can also run stuff like Jabba Space Cruiser, which can pull you a couple different good characters. You can run Ellison Ship, which is really good if you can take over a light side system. On the ground, you get a lot of major EPPs, right? So you get Kylo is playable, Lord Maul with lightsaber is playable, Mara Jade is playable, you get R. Singh, you get Dengar, who's also good against Watcher Step, if that is a deck in this format. I don't think it is. You have a lot of Bounty Hunter synergy, you have some Alien synergy, you have probably the best character in the deck in Allegiant General Pride, who will add a Destiny against a Resistance character, of which I expect there to be a lot. Some of this is a little gimmicky, I will admit. There is I Can't Shake Him, which can pull you DS612 or DS615, both good cards. Both work with Vader also. And they don't have to be on the same ship, so they can go aboard Houndstooth, I believe. Yeah, Houndstooth takes any passenger. Space Cruiser takes any passenger. Slave 1 takes any pilot. So in this deck, I am again starting Quatrav Yards. I'm starting Insurrection. And I'm starting, actually, the Security Tower start with Slip Sliding Away. For a 2-1 interior location, mostly because of Lady Proxima in the deck. And if you want to get really spicy, your blasters here, like Dengar and Aura, can also do cool things. What is my third effect? Quatrav Yards, Combat Response. So this is kind of a mains deck, it's kind of a court deck, it's kind of both, but not quite both. You can see kind of some of the sacrifices you have to make, right? So you're not playing Sniper and Dark Strike, you're just playing Dark Strike. So that's not going to get rid of Jin. You're playing stuff like Sneak Attack because I ran out of cards to put in here, and that just seemed like a good one. It's probably the same thing with Lana. Yeah, so like I said, I got to about 56 cards in a lot of these, and I was like, well, what virtual interrupts exist that I can play? Point Man seems good. Let's play that. And like Decree, I don't know if that's needed or not, but you know, it's a good card. Let's play it. So I actually played this deck today. It felt a little weird. There's a couple, it kind of suffers from trying to get the right things together at the right time and with no short range to pull your ships. It's a little bit tougher, but it's fun to play. You know, I thought about Tarkin's Bounty V in here, but I think there's only 2 Imperial leaders. So I think it's just Min Kainu and Tarkin, because this Vader isn't a leader. I thought about it. So yeah, this is my kind of mains version of a deck that I might play in the VR format. Alright, what do we got to say about this one? Not too far off from a 5th marker SSA. You could start the 5th marker in this one, but I don't know, just seemed easier to all play on Cloud City. I mean, you're not wrong, right? So one of the things I did notice about this format, and I was going to get to a little bit later, is the lack of spies. There's a lot of spies that are... Oh, 5th marker virtual. There's a lot of spies that are rare, and you can't play them. So I don't think there's a spy in this deck. If there was going to be a spy in this deck, it would be Probot. I think Lightside has, like, Jin, and R2D2V, and that's about it. Eric, don't you need to play Walker Garrison to be able to exchange? Or is it just throw an interrupt to the bottom? Okay. Yeah, that's a good switch then, I think. Swapping the security tower for the 5th marker virtual. Just for that interrupt exchange. That's good. Thrawn is the leader. You're right. Sorry. I only looked down here where the Imperials were and not up here where the alien Imperials were. Alright, so that is Dark Deck number 2. I mean, Command would be great if you could play it and it wasn't rare. There's a lot of cards that would be great for this deck if you could play them and they weren't rare. Alright, so for light side, I had a much easier time with this. The first one, I think, is the Legend deck. Yeah. So I took an existing Legend deck that I had. It was a Blaster's Legend. And I made a couple direct swaps and a couple less than optimal swaps. So let's take a look at it here. So with Legend, obviously all of your sites are pullable. So again, that's one of the major themes that I wanted to touch on is pullable activation is key since you can't run multiple copies of We Still Got a Grand Army or Speak or the Council Chamber at all or Sonic Bombardment or the 2/2 at all for Dark. So I wanted to focus on decks that could activate enough on their own. In this Legend build, I'm starting Brave Resistance, I'm starting Walkling, and I'm starting a good blaster at your side, which I was floating in my original version. But we're going to make this a little bit blaster-centric here now, because we're going to start this. The original version already had Han's gun. It also had Leia's gun, which you can't play. So we swapped that out by grabbing a Stun Blaster, which works really well with Sabine, who does great things with blasters and probably should have been in the deck originally. But we're pretty much capitalizing on that theme, right? We still have all the Legend stuff, so you're still going to be able to play Luke to your sites. You have Force Projection. You're going to be able to play Rays. In this case, we're split 1-to-1 between a Saber and a normal Ray. You're going to play your Leias. Again, split Leia V and a General Leia. You have Solo, you have Chewie, you have Poe, you have Rose, you have BB-8, right? So it's basically a Legend deck. A couple of the things you have to do is fill in a couple places with some extra dudes, and so that's why Admiral Statura is here. He's a good card, but he's not necessarily something that you might run in a traditional Legend, but here he kind of takes the place of Rose. I am not worried about Darkside freezing. That's just a remnant of an actual Legend deck. You still get good characters. I think the only characters I had to remove from this deck were an Obi with Saber and a Lando. But you replace Obi with General Obi, who works with your 1 copy of Rebel Leadership if you find it, which is also fun. And Lando ended up being replaced by who knows what. Certainly not me. You still have Ahsoka as a fantastic character. Jin is the only undercover spy in the format. Hera is still very good. So you basically have all your characters. Some of your interrupts get hurt a little bit, so you're running Blaster Proficiency instead of Sorry About the Mess combo. But this does everything you need it to do, since you're not going to use it during the control phase to shoot undercover spies, and you still have Han's gun to shoot during the control phase anyway. You get a little dicey in here with some cards that I put in. Yes. Found Someone You Have is not a card you've seen in decks probably ever, but this is the poor man's second copy of Jedi Lev to get back a key character of which you only have one, which is all of them. Other than that, it looks pretty standard Legend build, right? You still have your Gold Leader and Gold 1 interaction. You do have your Moments interaction. You could run... There's no other matching blasters, right? So that's why I'm running the one copy of the Security Officer Blaster, because it's a Destiny 5. You could look at probably cutting relatively unprotected and putting in superficial damage so you can keep your blasters running around. I think that was the last card I wanted to add. I'm actually going to do that right now. But yeah, so Legend looks like it's in a pretty good spot for this format. Escape pod combo should be escape pod. Alright. Accurate. Let's do that too. And you can see, like, you might not notice it at first, but this deck is just so much better than either of the dark decks that I've showed you already. So, Dan, there's no sorry about the mess non-combo, because generally I see that as a undercover spy killer, and all three of Darkseid's undercover spies are not legal in the format. If you need to shoot somebody during a control phase, you have Han to shoot. And really, you're looking for this blaster proficiency piece, right? Because you want to be able to add 3 to the weapon destiny when you shoot. So you make sure you hit with your stun blaster. You want to be able to make somebody lost when you hit with the other weapons. And that's the card that Finn pulls. So I think that that's the better of the two to play. So yeah, I think this is going to be a very popular deck in the format. Not necessarily this specific version, but, a Legend version. I think Old Allies is going to be the other one that is the most popular for light side. I did not build an Old Allies deck. Instead, I wanted to try to do a twist on a deck that I have said you cannot play already. Excuse me. And that is Diplo. Alright, so again, this started as a normal Diplo deck, and that's why this is still in here, so you can help me pick out what card number 60 is now. Normally Diplo would start... I had one thing I wanted to mention for the last one. Sorry, for the Legend deck, one of the cool changes that I was able to sneak in there is because you don't have to play against Black Sun, because you can't play Prince Sizor, right? So you will not see Black Sun in this format. You don't need the Black Sun sight. So instead, I went with the attrition +1. No, actually, I think I went with the use 1 force to fire a weapon while Luke is at this site. So I think that's a cool little theme that I leaned into there, and tried to lean into a little bit here as well. So that combined with Antilles Maneuver, and I think there was a Too Close for Comfort in that deck as well. Just little force denial tactics for light side. Alright, so we're looking at this Diplo, right? Traditional Diplo starts I Must Be Allowed to Speak, it starts Wackling, and it starts either squadron assignments or it starts strike planning. You can play squadron assignments, but you can't play Gold Squadron 1 or General Calrissian. And you can't play strike planning at all, so you had to find a third effect that still allows you to both find a planet between Tatooine and Alderaan, and also get you some generation. And so Chandrila, still a great planet to get. How do you get it? Well, you get it with Mon Mothma, but how do you get Mon Mothma? You don't, right? So instead, we're going to start a new secret base. So we're going to use 2 force on our first turn. It's going to be very vulnerable in the first turn or 2. But I was okay with that because there's no court, there's no, there's not really Endor ops. You might run into a deck that is able to combat response somebody turn 1, but I think it's going to be less often than you see in open. So I think you're okay to be a little slower. Right, so we're going to start by pulling Chandrila, so that way we'll always hit it, right? There you go. There's card 60 for you. Alright. No rescue. Oh boy. See, this is what happens when you leave me alone to build decks. Actually, this is what happens when you take a Diplo deck that people have been playing and try to fit some cards into it. Alright. There you go. See, we're fixing things on the fly. Alright, some of the cards that you lose here, you lose a couple key ground guys, right, for Diplo. So you lose Chewy Protector, you lose Lando Scoundrel, you lose Owen and Baru, you lose Corn Horn, right? So I kind of went back and forth about playing I Must Be Allowed to Speak, right? Because there's no Rebel Lando that you can play. And there's no Rebel Chewy that you can play other than Chewy V, which didn't seem worth it to me. So I decided in the end to keep I Must Be Allowed to Speak and run this Lando, who's able to cancel the text of, during battle. So Lord Maul with Saber or Darth Vader V. Thinking about it, this is not a great card, but it's a Lando for I Must Be Allowed to Speak. And it's legal in the format, so it's in here. Chewie is one of the few weapons you can play, so he's in here too. Otherwise, it's mostly a standard Diplo. I tried to add a couple guys, I think that... I don't even know if I added that many guys, right? I think just Sabine from... Okay, so Sabine and Anakin are not normally in these lists, but I added the two of them. You had to split up Luke's, right? So one Luke Skywalker Rebel Scout, one Last Jedi Luke. We're going to run the city outskirts to pull somebody, probably Last Jedi Luke. Since you can't run the Cantina, because it's rare. So we're not going to Cantina shuffle. In the interrupts, again, you're leaning into that Force Denial a little bit. You got Luke. I think Cal Elder was in here at one point. You have Antilles Maneuver. You have Too Close for Comfort. Again, just because, like I said, I think Force is going to be at a premium in this format. What else is non-standard in here? I guess really only the Saber. But once we added Anakin and... I was thinking like Eric was, there's not a ton of weapons in this format, so that was a good add, I think. But yeah, pretty standard Diplo. It's just going to be a little slow turn 1 and 2. But then it does Diplo things. And you get down to about 12 force and then stay there for the rest of the game. Alright, so anybody comments, questions on these 4 decks that I put through? I'm going to post them, like I said. So feel free to mock them then if you don't want to mock them right now. Even though you did knock them right now. Alright, I wanted to check the Slack and see if anybody had any questions for me. I don't know, there's discussion of teams and I see new allies. I'll read about that in a minute. That's fine. Anyway. Have I tried inventing something completely new? So that's kind of what that Dark Side deck was. Because after building 3 decks and trying to adapt all of the existing Dark Side ones and not really liking what I was losing, that's kind of what I tried to do, is find a way to play matching ships in space while still kind of living on the ground. Like I said, I tried to do that Aerotech deck that I've seen in like closed formats as a thing and kind of like in the casual tables as a thing. Invent a deck. I'm not really I will confess that I am not the most original deck builder. I think my strength when it comes to deck building is optimizing the last couple cards, even though we didn't do that in this Diplo. I think generally there are more creative people than me out there, and that's why I'm excited to see kind of what people come up with. Hyperdrive. I'm sure that Matt, who I saw in the chat, has a Hyperdrive list that is pretty close. to being legal just in general, because I know you have like Master Qui-Gon is virtual, Mace is virtual, Obi's virtual, a lot of stuff's virtual. It's just a matter of what's rare and what can't you play. So Hyperdrive, I think, is a good option. That is one of my takeaways again, right? So like light side is better at the top and deeper because you have stuff like Hyperdrive. You have Yavin 4 operations because you can play Snap and Luke and it's Gold 1. I think you can play like Dutch and Gold 1 and Gold Leader and Gold 1 and Poe and his X-Wing. So you have all those tools there. You have the only undercover spy in Jin. You have Legend, Old Allies. You have this Diplo, which isn't terrible. You could play Mime What You Have Learned. I think the only thing you lose there is Yoda's Hut, but everything else should be playable. Just a matter of how you find yourself a battleground with that deck. Or maybe you don't. I don't know. But yeah. Matt was kind enough to send me a couple questions as well. So, this first one is there a playable mains deck? It's going to depend what you consider mains, because I would consider Legend a mains deck, and I would say that is definitely very playable. Is there like a throne room type deck, or what could you even play? I don't even know what you could play for a light side deck, because you would think traditional mains is like Hitco, Throne Room is There's Good in Him, which you can't play. For dark side mains, you can't play Hunt Down. You're only going to be limited to one Lord Maul with stick. There's no Vader. You can't play. There's a Darth Vader's lightsaber, virtual, I believe, which you can play with Darth Vader V and Enforcer. You could play Mara and Kylo. So I think dark mains, I think you have more of the pieces, just not a platform. And light mains, you don't really have either. Except for Legend. That's my read of it, at least. Losing Daughter, which is huge. But you get to play Virtual Daughter, which is not as good. Justin, I did look into a stunning move. I like a stunning move when I did not realize that you could only have one copy of each. But once I realized you could only have one copy of each, you only get one Maul, one Grievous. You don't get P59, you don't get P60. Your character base comes real small real fast, right? So like on my list, it says you lose Dr. E, P59, you lose Phantom Menace, you lose Command, you lose Maul's Saber, you only get one Dooku. So that one just got real small real quick. That was the fourth deck I was going to build for this instead of that mains hybrid thing, whatever it was. And I don't want to say it's not playable, but, you know. I thought about CCT also, but you can't play any methods necessary. And so I don't know what a 3-effect CCT looks like, to be honest with you. Because it's a lot of digging for either Ig or Duro. And that's even if you play it that way, unless you like take one of their characters, which might not be bad either. But Despair is a good card. It's again one of those Force to 9 cards. I think you could run it with maybe a Quat Drive Yards. I feel like all of my dark side decks are the same. Quat Drive Yards, Imperial Rest Order, and Third Effect. Yes, premium cards are not playable. So anything EPP, ECC, you can't play Gem's Price. Okay. So I guess you're taking one of their Rebels, which might not be bad. Maybe we should put Relatively Unprotected back in. Freeze a Rebel. So that's definitely doable, right? Carbon Freezing and Prepare the Chamber and the Chamber Console. They're all playable. You do lose that activation with the non-virtual chamber console. Carbonite Chamber Console. All right, so another question here from Matt. What decks lost important startable effects? This did Diplo, Legend, and Old Allies losing Strike Planning. 3 decks that I think are very playable in this format. Yeah, it's just tough to think about, like, because you're like, oh, okay, that might be a deck, but then you realize that you can't play it. Like, I was thinking maybe Walkers could be a deck, but then you can't play, you may start your landing, so that just kills the deck immediately, and that's before you realize that you can't play Blizzard 4, Blizzard 1. Pick a guy. Pick a Walker, right? Alright. Mirror cards where one is banned and another is not. And the biggest example he can think of is Rebel Leadership V versus Imperial Command. And that's the biggest example I can think of as well. Yeah, so having no Imperial Command, so I think you're going to see a lot of Evacuation Control and a lot of Imperial Justice, which I don't have in any of my 4 decks, right? Because that's the only way to deal with multiple destinies. Definitely a big loss there. I think some of the objectives are not super balanced, right? So, like, just some of the stuff you lose with the dark side objectives is way worse than some of the stuff you lose with the light side objectives. What do we got here? Other things that are not playable. You lose a card like... so Senate's not playable for either side, right? But Squabbling Delegates, you don't really pull anybody except your senators, whereas Might of the Republic, you might pull... Like, that would definitely be in this Diplo deck if it was legal, because you would pull Mothma, you would pull Leia, you can pull Bail if he's in the deck, yeah. So losing that hurts more than the dark side losing it. That's another example there. The Undercover Spies example too. So dark side loses all 3 of their Undercover Spies that are natively Undercover Spies, whereas light side keeps Jin. I think that's going to be pretty big. All right, and then last question from Matt here. Surprising rares. So he posted the list, or he didn't post the list. He posted he talks about the random Endor Stormtroopers, Biker Scouts that are all unplayable, which I had the same reaction. Like, oh my god, all of these dudes are rares, and you can't play any of them. So that's unfortunate. There goes my Airtech deck, and it's gone. It's dead on arrival, right? ISB actually lost a lot of characters that I didn't realize they were going to lose. Stuff like Sergeant Wallen is rare, and like random, like Lieutenant Renz is a rare, and it's just tough to like lose those dudes in ISB. Ozzel's a rare. I think I tried to build ISB. I ended up with a deck with 12 ISB agents in it that were playable because you can't run multiples. So, I mean, it was enforcement, but you know. Other surprising rares. There is... I did not realize that most matching weapons are rare. That's just kind of a quirk that I think happened, because I was looking for blasters I could put into the light side deck. And my first thought was, oh, I could play Amidala's blaster. And then, no, you can't. And I said, oh, okay, like, Luke has a blaster, and you can play Luke's blaster, but, you know, it's Legend, and Luke is on Octo. And then, like, just going through the rare blasters, there's stuff like the A280, which I almost put in the deck, and Lando's blaster is randomly rare, which is just weird. But yeah, that's most of what I got. If you guys have any other questions, I can stick around for another couple minutes. I feel like I'm giving this like I'm giving a presentation or something. Like, any questions, comments, concerns, smart remarks? I'll hang around for 2 minutes. Yeah, otherwise I am going to get these lists posted, and I look forward to trying to commentate some of these games, some of these Corona Cup games, either Java format or the virtual reality format here. And if you are playing in the event, please send me a game, and I can do a Gogolin style game review next week, because I'm not going to be able to talk about the meta every week for the next month without talking about some of the games. So yeah, feel free to send me any of those cool games. And thanks for coming out, joining me here tonight, talk some Star Wars cards on a Monday. And I'll see you guys out there.